Okay, I'm going to be eating a bit as we continue going into the rules, the mechanics, the minutia of Pathfinder Second Edition Playtest. And hopefully not die in front of you. That's a goal. You know, I almost thought that was Kilauea, but still, is that Kilua? Or Kilua? But hello to you. Welcome. Welcome to our presentation. Welcome to our chat. Feel free to ask questions and to participate, to share stories, ask for help or whatnot, as much as you'd like to. We're having a conversation tonight, and it's been a really good one so far. Kahlua? Oh, it could be Kahlua. Kind of like the chocolate liqueur. Endless says it's a private group of friends that do long games that last months. That's all I know. Okay, so Endless, you'll be playing at an actual, tabletop then. Like you're gonna sit down at a table with 17 other people. Kilua, like the character from Hunter x Hunter. Or wait, are you not supposed to say the X? Is it just Hunter Hunter? I forget the common the fan conception about that. Gold Public, thank you very much for thank you for that host. I wonder if have my notifications been working? Well, everyone, welcome. I may be eating in front of you, so we're having a multi-classed mukbang social eating, mukbang / D&D stream. So speaking of dying in front of people, drowning and suffocating. You can survive X rounds after choking on delicious pot roast. You can hold your breath for a number of actions equal to your Constitution score, or double your Constitution score if you use the Breathe Deep action before entering the airless environment. Each action that passes during your turn costs you 1 action worth of air, even if you do nothing with that action. Creatures that have fewer than 3 actions still lose a minimum of 3 actions worth of air each turn. Each time you take an attack or manipulate action, you lose 2 actions worth of air instead of 1. Each time you take an attack, oh yeah, that was 2 actions. You also lose 2 actions worth of air each time you get hit by an attack. Verbal actions cost you all your remaining air. I swear, Diadems, I have had streams where I do not eat in front of you. It happens. When you run out of air, you fall unconscious and start suffocating. While suffocating, you can't recover from being unconscious, and you must attempt a DC 20 Fortitude save at the end of each of your turns. On a failure, you take 1d10 damage, and on a critical failure, you die. On each check after the first, the DC increases by 5 and the damage by 1d10. The increases are cumulative. Once your access to air is restored, you stop suffocating and are no longer unconscious, unless you took enough damage from suffocation to reach 0 hit points, in which case you return to 1 hit point and are unconscious. All right, so this concludes the minutia of what you do when you're, when you call for initiative, when we're having combat, we're having round by round action. Now let's take a look at what happens when we go into exploration mode inside of Pathfinder. You haven't seen them yet, Diadems? It happens. That is correct, Daniel. Although a lot of this is going to be getting trimmed soon, including my mustache. Ooh. While encounters use rounds for combat and roughly real time for social encounters, exploration is more freeform. So it's overlay and travel. Nice chart. Here you go. If your speed is 25 feet, that's 250 feet per minute. That's 2.5 miles per hour. And that is 20 miles per day. So, by the way, you see this chart? You can use this in Dungeons and Dragons. Because it doesn't have something, I don't believe, as specific as this. But it does go into, how many miles you can travel in an 8-hour day or that kind of a thing. So it does have aspects like that. But this is a very good chart that if you don't have this in D&D and you would like to reference, what's my walking speed in miles per hour? If I was just casually strolling, or I was jogging, or I was doing something along those lines. Here you go. You have it. Take a picture because Pathfinder gave it to you. Yes, Diadems, it does have to get trimmed. It is starting to take over. And besides, I would like I'd like the look it'll give me a little bit more than going, especially in the summertime, than kind of going, caveman or mountain man looking. And by the way, the dirty little secret that you might see in the chart, every 5 feet of speed is half a mile per hour. Shh. While you're traveling and exploring, tell the GM what you generally like to do. The GM will determine which exploration tactic applies and describe the result. It isn't necessary to go into extreme detail, such as using my silver baton, I nudge the door forward so I can check the hinges for devious traps. Instead, quote, I'm searching the area for hazards is sufficient. Use the list of common tactics that follows as inspiration. If you come up with your own idea, the GM will adjudicate your idea using these as a baseline. Some exploration tactics are fatiguing. These tactics cause the fatigued condition after 10 minutes of performing them. Such tactics are indicated by the word fatiguing in parentheses. While you're fatigued, the only tactic you can use is wandering. Taking a significant break to catch your breath can allow you to continue onward using a fatiguing tactic, but because of this, when you're traveling for a long time, you will sometimes need to use other tactics, like wandering, so you don't exhaust yourself. The most common exploration tactics are detecting, magic, hustling, searching, and sneaking. And here we get into, so here's a list of mechanics that you can engage in within the rules of Pathfinder and how they affect you, right? If you're hustling, you're straining yourself to move at double your travel speed. It's fatiguing, and we go back to the fatiguing rule. If you're investigating, you want to find out more information about your surroundings, you can move at half your travel speed using recall knowledge to look for rules among the things you can see. You can use any skill that has a recall knowledge action for the investigating tactic, but the GM determines whether that skill is any relevance. Sneaking, etc. There are social tactics, carousing, conversing. All of these have rules, all of these have actions, all of these have references. I'm not saying this in a sarcastic or a bitter tone. It's the nature of the beast. So even in our, not even in our 6 second at a time encounter mode, there are minutia and there are rules for everything that you can do. Can be quantified, measured, and mechanized along the way. Soon Maddie will be more beard than man. Yes, soon. Daniel, do these rules apply to 5th edition? I thought this was more 3.5. Daniel, Pathfinder was built when 3.5 went to 4th edition. And so a lot of people call Pathfinder 1st edition like 3.75 or 3.9. 2nd edition is built upon 1st edition with tweaks and hones and everything. And so it's still reflecting a great many aspects of 3rd edition D&D. Technotron, it's all a matter of time before the rules go out the window. There's cases, look, 5th edition is very simplified, especially compared to Pathfinder. There's times in 5th edition D&D, Technotron, I do the same thing. I don't care if there's a rule for this. Let's make it simple. We don't need to roll a dice for every single little thing that your character wants to do. You know, do I need my downtime completely mechanized? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. You're the one who's buying this role-playing game. Presuming you're the one who bought the role-playing game. Endless, yes. There are different editions of D&D. But an E-D-I-T-I-O-N. Edition, not addition. And they play differently. Pathfinder is built kind of on the 3rd edition chassis due to demand of D&D players who said that they really love 3rd edition and they didn't want to go to 4th. Sorry, There's rest and daily preparations. You perform at your best when you take enough time to rest and prepare. Once every 24-hour period, you can take a period of rest, typically 8 hours, and then prepare, which takes 1 hour. After your rest, you regain a number of hit points equal to your Constitution modifier times your level. When you prepare, you regain resources that you can use only a limited number of times per day. For instance, if you're a spellcaster, you regain spell slots and can prepare new spells. If you have spell points, you regain those, magic item uses refresh, and so on. You can make your daily preparations only if you've rested, and it's typically best to do so right after. If you don't rest at least 6 hours in a 24-hour span, you become fatigued. You cannot recover from this until you rest. And then there's downtime activities. And so we actually come to... I love this illustration. It's very dynamic. I love the theme of it here. And by the way, downtime, even in D&D, make sure you have downtime. As a personal recommendation, if you're doing a one-shot, I mean, downtime won't really matter. But in your campaigns, if you're running, don't be afraid to have downtime. I mean, unless the clock is crunching, right? The villain is going to sacrifice the princess in 7 days unless we do something. Otherwise, live life, craft items, explore, prepare for the combat to come. You know, for the armies of the south will arrive at the first leaf of autumn or something like that. Well, it's the middle of summer, so that means we have a couple months maybe to try and prepare. And we can do a downtime activity over the course of a session or two instead of having to keep everything at the ground first person level and have time pass almost real time all the time. So yeah, downtime is day by day rather than minute by minute. You can rest fully, gives you more benefits than healing on the road. You can spend an entire day resting during downtime to recover double the hit points you would normally for a night. If you don't want to pay for food and lodging, you can use your downtime to scavenge and subsist using survival when in the wilderness or society when in a settlement. You can also sell items acquired, etc. and so forth. King says, Daniel, movement is more or less the same between 5-foot squares, 30-foot move actions. Actually, King, the standard in Pathfinder 2e seems to be 25 feet. And also, diagonals in this edition are 5'10", 5'10", 5'10". What's the difference between 3 and 3.5? A little bit of tweaking, and especially the haste spell not making you absolutely broken. A few different skills, some changes to spells and equipment. Yep. Give the player something other than quest and combat. Yeah, what heresy is this, diadems? So third's used by most people. Third is where a lot of people learn to play D&D. Fifth is a resurgence of this. Though I think a lot more people are playing 5th edition. I don't have an industry statistic in front of me. I could probably find one from, well, my industry. Yeah, King, this is, it is 5'10" diagonals in this system. Don't you want to calculate the hypotenuse in the middle of a role-playing game, King? Come on now. Be reasonable. Endless. Well, look, learning 5th is... Don't even feel bad. 5th edition is not difficult to learn. And what you're seeing up here is Pathfinder. This is going to be a more difficult game to learn. I'm not saying it's a bad game. It'll be more difficult to learn. But if I imagine your group is using 5th edition. And if so, then yes, learn 5th edition Endless, and we can help you do that. I will personally help you as much as I can to learn. Retraining offers a way to alter some of your character options, which can be helpful when you want to grow your character in a new direction, or simply change decisions that weren't as interesting or effective as you expected. The 3 things you can retrain are feats, except heritage feats, skill proficiencies and increases, and selectable class features, like wizard schools or sorcerer spells known. You cannot retrain your ancestry, background, or class. Usually, you must find a teacher to teach you new abilities. The GM will let you know how long it takes, but expect skills and feats to take around a week and class features to take at least a month. Some abilities can be difficult or impossible to retrain. For instance, a sorcerer can retrain her bloodline only in extraordinary circumstances. In general, when retraining, you can't make choices that you wouldn't when first making your character. For instance, you can't exchange a feat for a different type of feat, a higher level feat, or one that requires prerequisites you didn't meet at the time you took the original feat. So, you have all of these options in Pathfinder, and then you have the option to revisit all of the options and to change your character sheet with a week of downtime or so. So there is some flexibility, I suppose. I guess that's flexibility, right? Or is that complexity? Huh. You still have no idea what they're thinking with THACO. It's the same math, but the intuitive understanding is impossible. Yes, second edition, the mathematicians D&D. A week of downtime to change pretty big character details. Yeah, so if you don't like, or if you took, I don't know, some sort of sleight of hand, and you say, man, I'm not getting to pick as many pockets as I thought, in a week of downtime, you could, I guess, turn that into stealth, so long as you could have taken stealth anyway. I mean, does that sound plausible? I mean, again, we're talking concepts of realism inside a fantasy game. Is that fair or unfair? I don't know. In a system with as many feats as there are, you could have a cool character concept, and you take your character down a very specialized road, and you find out that the campaign doesn't really have much to do with the character you've built. And so you can go back and retrain certain aspects of your character. In the context in the context of Pathfinder, I think it is a necessary bleed off. Otherwise, you will have very bitter players saying, I built an Elven Archer, and everything we're doing is melee combat. I mean, does the GM have to accommodate every single aspect of a PC's, race or class? No. Should they consider it? Yes. But anyway, retraining in a way lets you say, I'm bored with this, I want something different, and let's have a magical girl transformation. Fluffy Sheep, I think the main use would be to adjust your character if you need to change the way you specialized. Yeah, exactly, Fluffy Sheep. I think in this system, something like this is a necessary, a pressure blow-off valve. You should have something like this in such a complex system of super specialization. I like being able to tweak things as the campaign is starting. 8-foot swole dude with a magical girl transformation. And, D&D, as far as I know, doesn't explicitly say it. As a DM, I try to allow those blow-off valves over the course of a campaign as they reach certain points in the story or certain circumstances occur. Because it is, I would argue it's necessary to at least offer the option to players every so often to be able to tweak or adjust something along the way. Especially, are they trying to learn a new language, and so they've spent time trying to teach each other a language? Or they want to gain training in a skill? Something like that? King says, you told me I could be anything. Why now do you tell me that my Yakuza Space Police Ninja doesn't fit your setting? Daniel says at King, I once played as a Drider. Nothing is off limits. Over the course of adventuring, characters and sometimes their belongings are affected by abilities and effects that apply conditions. Conditions change your state of being in some way. You might be gripped with fear or made faster by a spell or magic item. One condition represents what would happen when a creature successfully drains your blood or life essence, while others represent creatures' attitudes toward you and how they interact with you. Conditions are persistent. When you're affected by a condition, its effects last until the condition's stated duration ends. The condition's removed or terms dictated to the condition itself cause it to end. Every condition has values, right? As we explored with death and dying. If you get to dying 4, you then become the condition of dead. Some conditions have a numerical value called a condition value, indicated by a numeral following the condition. This value might enumerate a bonus or penalty the condition gives you. These values can often be reduced by spells, skills, or simply waiting. If such a value is ever reduced to 0, the condition ends. Okay? Someone is always out there draining blood. I mean, you all discovered that on Tuesday, Fluffy Sheep. I mean, don't you hate it when that happens? I wish there was a product on a late night infomercial that I could buy to just stop people from drinking my blood. You can have a given condition only once at a time. If an effect would impose on a condition you're already being affected by, you now have that condition for the longer of the 2 durations. The shorter duration condition effectively ends, though other conditions caused by the original shorter duration might continue. For example, let's say you've been hit by a monster that drains your vitality. That wound causes you to be enfeebled 2 and flat-footed until the end of the monster's next turn. Before the end of the creature's next turn, a trap poisons you, making you enfeebled 2 for 1 minute. In this case, the enfeebled 2 that lasts for 1 minute replaces the enfeebled 2 from the monster. You would continue to be enfeebled 2 for this longer duration, but you would still remain flat-footed only until the end of the monster's next turn. Any ability that removes a condition removes it entirely. That makes sense. Some conditions override others, as described in the condition. All effects of the overridden condition are suppressed until the overriding condition ends. The overridden condition's duration continues to elapse, and it might be expire while being suppressed. Some effects counteract conditions, afflictions, and other effects. When attempting to counteract an effect, compare the counteract level of the effect with the counteract level of the ability you're using. A spell's counteract level is equal to its spell level. For the counteract levels of other abilities, if your ability has a higher counteract level than that of the effect to be counteracted, you automatically succeed at counteracting the counteract to counteract the counteract to counteract to counteract. If your ability's counteract level is the same as the effect's counteract level or lower, you must succeed at a check, using the relevant skill or ability against the DC of the target effect. You take a cumulative -5 penalty to this check for every level by which your ability's counteract level is lower than the target's. If your ability is 4 or more counteract levels lower than the effect that you're trying to counteract, your attempt automatically fails. They are phlebotomists, yes. Yes. Reduce your life condition to 0, automatically gain dying 4. That's another way of looking at it, TJ. I guess. Well, no, because technically if you're dead, the dying condition falls away, and it's replaced by the dead condition. And so you still have a PC, it's just that you get to put this fun dead condition on it. Some spells and abilities can't affect a creature more than once in a day. If an effect says a creature becomes bolstered, repeated applications of the effect don't do anything to the creature. For example, the blindness spell says the target is bolstered against all castings of blindness. Casting blindness on the creature again would have no effect. Okay. Makes sense. Altering actions. Conditions can change the number of actions you can spend on your turn, whether you can use actions, reactions, or free actions at all. The slow condition, for example, causes you to lose actions, while quick causes you to gain actions. The most restrictive form of this is when a condition states you can't act, meaning you can't spend actions, activities, reactions, or free actions. Remember, everything has a term, everything has a mechanic, everything has a name in this edition. When you can't act, you don't regain your actions and reaction on your turn. Speed reduction, and now we get to basic conditions here. I'm not tough to make laugh. Come on, Daniel. Endless. Yes. Well, no, not every day. Most days. Tuesday through Saturday, I stream. So what you want to do, Endless? Interact with us on the Discord over the next days that I don't stream, and we'll be able to help you. Also, don't be afraid to watch any of those YouTube videos. Everything is a D&D 101. It's basic entry-level D&D stuff to help teach people how to go about these different actions. If you have questions or you need more help, let me know, okay? Thank you for being a part of the stream, Endless, and we will do our best to help get you primed and ready to play in your first D&D game here coming up, all right? We're here with you. Don't feel nervous about it. You're a part of a nice community. TJ, if it's a state-based effect, technically you would skip it in normal circumstances. However, in the rare state where an effect may begin or end when Dying 4 is initiated, it is necessary to go through Dying 4. Oh. Alzy. Hey, Alzy! I just saw the Red Dead Redemption ad when I loaded this channel. Looks like I'm going to have to get myself a PS3. Yeah, we got this music going on in the background, and a PS4. Heck, get yourself a PS3, Alzy. I have one, and I use it as a Blu-ray player. What are video games? I don't know if you'll make you have to wait 2 months. Well, Endless, I'm sorry we couldn't like instant teach you. I mean, whether you come back to this broadcast or not, if you can be online and watch the YouTube videos, or which is on YouTube itself. If you don't have Discord, You can see the videos by themselves there at your leisure. Otherwise, we'll help you as much as we can online. Whether I'm broadcasting or not, the Discord is a 24/7. Okay, you can be accelerated. You could be asleep. You can be blinded. Your objects can be broken. Broken is a condition that affects objects. A broken object can't be used for its normal function, nor does it grant bonuses. It still imposes the penalties and limitations normally incurred while carrying, holding, or wearing it. For example, a suit of armor would still impose its dexterity modifier, cap, check penalty, and so forth. Broken armor is an exception. It still grants its item bonuses, but also gives you a conditional penalty to AC depending on its category. You can be concealed. You can be confused. You can be dazzled or dead. If any of you want me to go through the specifics of a condition, let me know. Otherwise, like, when we went through spells, I didn't go through every single spell. But if there's one you wanted to see, I'll happily go back to it. Neo Ramzo, I've seen broken players. Yes. What do you think of Pathfinder 2 so far? Bold New World or Reinventing the Wheel? Neither? I haven't played Pathfinder 1, so I can't really tell you if it's reinventing the Pathfinder brand. I guess it's reinventing 3rd edition Dungeons and Dragons. So it's reinventing an almost 20-year-old roleplay product. I say that neutrally. I'm not trying to be sarcastic or funny in that regard. It's reinventing Dungeons and Dragons 3rd edition for the second time. Arguably for the third if it was based off of 3.5. It is very crunch heavy. It is very mechanics heavy. And I think it can feel very overwhelming, especially to new role players. At this point in time, I don't think I would personally play this system. This is my opinion. Because I don't like crunch heavy games. It is, in my opinion, it is very less accessible than 5th edition. Alzi, to calculate a perception check, there are 9 variables you have to take into consideration. You have feats for your, well, it's called ancestry instead of race. You have feats for your race, feats for your class, and if you don't want class feats, you can take archetype feats. You then have feats for your skills. All of your skills have series of actions that you can learn or that you gain access to if it's untrained, and more actions if it's trained. Everything in this system has a mechanic. Everything is a gear in a slot in the machine of Pathfinder. That said, if you love crunch, if you love a big bucket of random Legos and you want to make something out of it, you can do that with this system. You can build a super specialized character mechanically. You can go deep with it. Hey, Journeyman. Hi. Everything has a mechanic in this book. Everything has an action and a condition. Everything has a vocabulary word. Everything is linked and cross-referenced to everything else. I mean, when I say everything, that's hyperbolic. Thank you, King, for that word, by the way. I knew there was a way to describe what I was getting at. Neo Realms, I wouldn't run it, but I'd play. Yeah, I'd play the heck out of it. I don't know if I'd even play. I don't want to play an accounting minigame. I don't want to play a spreadsheet simulator. And I just have the unfortunate feeling that I'm playing a spreadsheet simulator with this game. And I want to tell a story as a PC or as a DM. I don't want to have my mechanics dictate who I am as a character. I mean, I think that was a smart move on Paizo's end. People play Pathfinder for the crunch. Yeah, for sure. If people love crunch, they are getting it in spades. This is a crunch-heavy game. This is nothing but crunch. Sounds like a cereal brand. Pathfinder, nothing but crunch. I agree. And you can, if you want to min-max, and if you want to have your mechanics dictate who your character is, and what your character says and does, this is the game to play. And just because I don't prefer it, doesn't mean it's a bad game. It's a different game, and one that I probably wouldn't play. However, as a store owner, and someone who is going to carry the official, second edition books on my shelf, I have to be able to come up with a reason to tell someone, like, Alzy, if you walked into my store and you said with your quaint Australian accent, why should I play Pathfinder? And I want to be an honest human being, not just a businessman, because that being a businessman doesn't necessarily imply honesty or ethics, unfortunately. I need to be able to look you in the eye as I'm doing right now. Alzy, I'm only looking at you. Everyone else who thinks that I'm looking at you, just look away a little bit. Alzy, I'm looking at you. Thank you for coming to the store. Honestly, Pathfinder, it's a solid, venerable role-playing system. It features a very in-depth character creation process. You can specialize your character in an infinite number of ways. Anything you want to do is covered by a rule in this book. If you want to build a super specialized elf, and not so much worry about the bow and arrow use or something, you can build a super special elf character. If you don't mind about whatever qualities you have as an elf, but you want to be an archer, you can build a super specialized archer that happens to be an elf. So on and so forth. If you love interaction, you love rules and slotting things in, if you've played 3rd edition D&D or 1st edition Pathfinder, then yes, pick up this game. And I will still do my best to help you understand how it works if you come in later and you say, I don't know what's happening. That would be my pitch to you, Alzy. It's 100% true. I'm neither suppressing nor leaking out any biases I may have. And I would be selling you on the concept along lines that you will soon discover yourself when you crack open this book. And I will still offer you the support to learn how to play this system that I'm offering on my shelf. Whether or not I like it, that's not exactly relevant. You could be a car mechanic that works for GM and you're like, oh my gosh, Buicks? Really? But you still gotta fix a Buick if someone brings it in. Oh, sorry. Let me go back up. Here, actually, J-Man is here. J-Man, thank you so much, because I have gotten use out of one of your user icons. Or one of your emotes. Alright, so now I kind of game, says Alzy. Neo Realms. Yeah, Neo Realms has been hanging out tonight. Thanks for turning. You are welcome, Alzy. I'm happy to turn you all on. It's what I do, Neo Realms turn. Oh, thank you, Journey. Show me something I might like. You're already here, Daniel. Hey, nice comeback. Yeah, Journeyman. Give Journeyman a look and certainly give him a follow. He is actually doing art for Lamentations of the Flame Princess. right now, and he also does work on some other role-playing supplements that other people have made. Awesome dude. Great emotes, by the way. The rant, spot on. Journey, you hate crunch. Yeah, and this is so crunch heavy compared to some other systems. Zuler Pie, with a very complex rule-based system with lots of mechanics, what happens when a mistake is realized sometime later as the game has progressed? I can see mistakes I agree. I see a lot of time wasted. A lot of time people are too busy looking with their nose in a book instead of having fun in role-playing. And that's what concerns me as someone who is a role player myself, let alone makes a living off of it. I want you to have fun. I don't want you to fight verbally or physically or ruin a friendship because of one mistake, one mechanical mistake made in a role-playing game. And there's plenty of room for mistakes in this system. Or when we see real-life behavior incentivized by in-game rules. Or again, when we have a fantasy role-playing rulebook trying to tell you what you are doing with your game in terms of social awareness and these other, unfortunately, political concerns in the current year. And then later in the book, have a gender-locked advancement. What are you supposed to believe? What are you trying to do? For me, if you want crunch, but with a user-friendly system, GURPS or GURPS Lite. I have heard similar, Journeyman. I've not gotten to play GURPS, though. GURPS is all things. Robotech, baby. Alzi, I usually make the analogy of 5th edition equals Need for Speed. Pathfinder is Forza. Oh, yeah, so, yeah, Forza, you can infinitesimally tune every aspect of your car. And it'll have, real-life physics and everything. 5th Ed is just, I like fast cars. This one looks cool. Let's hop in it and race. Because I want to race. I don't care if I'm 1 centimeter lower in my suspension to the ground, and then I do a time trial 20 extra times to get that extra half a second. Journeyman, thank you very much. Heart. TJ, yep, Lamentations. TJ, go to his channel and go to his other social media. Look at Journeyman's art. Mwah, molto bene. Lamentations is like the Disney of RPG. Neo Realms is getting drawn tomorrow. Dun dun dun. Yeah, Journeyman has taken the people that he least likes in the world and is transforming them into satanic clowns. Draw me like one of your French women. Illumines, no. Well, I don't think there's a gender-specific spell. One of their archetypes or one of their prestige classes is gender-locked. If you go by rules as written. Now, when we were reviewing it, I said throw that garbage away. Especially because there are 3 instances at the beginning of the book that it tells you that you should throw that garbage away. And if you look at it, it's a solid, like a juggernaut class. You get special, I hate to use the term, you get like Mary Sue plate mail, shield use, damage reduction. If you want to play a tough as nails, covered in metal character, I don't care if they say it's female only, you should be able to play that, because I like it. And you know what? The lore for that archetype is solid. If it wasn't for what the beginning of the book had printed, I wouldn't even bat an eye at it. But because the book browbeats you on 3 different occasions to insert what it believes you should be doing, and then it has this, it's very jarring. Let alone, if you want to get into the fact that it seemed it can treat women like a trope, it can be viewed that way. I'm not trying to incite anything. If you look at that archetype. I'm not going to tell you what to think. If you want to go and look at it and come up with your own judgment, you're very welcome to do so. It's just now that they have inserted or they've made the assertions they have, it then goes through and it triggers questions every step of the way. And that makes me uncomfortable as a role player. It makes me uncomfortable as someone who has to adjudicate rules, or someone who's hosting friends or family at a table and is running a system. And that shouldn't happen at a social game where you're here playing with friends and family. Journeyman, thank you very much for that host. Thanks to you and everyone who came over with you. You all are welcome here. All right, Technotron, have an awesome night. Thank you for stopping by and chatting. Hey, for not streaming and having 20 people, that's really good, Journey. That's 20 is what I get on average by streaming. I guess I'm too much of a lecturer for my own good. I dated Danielle, aka the Amazon. We watched her split a dude's cup one night IRL. TJ, they released a spell book for Tabletop Day a few years back. There was a spell called Volcanic Salute. Basically, the more the character had sex, the hotter physically they became. Wait, Pathfinder, TJ? Or are you talking about Lamentations of the Flame Princess? Because that's a Lamentations thing. Look, Lamentations doesn't have the social taboo and you know, reminders that the Pathfinder one does. You're here for the dialogue? Oh, thank you, Illumines. It all depends on your priorities. For me, any rules issue that takes more than about a minute to resolve is too long. And unfortunately, Alzy, I see that happening with this system. That there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be spending more time worrying about their modifiers and cross-referencing what a term means than actually just playing a game and having fun. Okay, yeah, for Lamentations, 100% makes sense, TJ. Alright, so you can be enervated, enfeebled, entangled, fascinated. And by the way, a lot of these have 4 different levels. So make sure that you're tracking every condition, how many turns it's left, and if there's something suppressing it, but not until the end of the, etc. and so forth. Fatigued, flat-footed, fleeing, friendly, frightened, grabbed, persistent damage. There's a whole big entry. Lots of skills. I see some capital letters. So that means that you're going to have to do some cross-referencing if you want to understand how this works. Petrified, prone, quick, unfriendly, unseen. There's different afflictions, diseases, gases, poisons, venoms. Whole entries on how an affliction works. Onset, maximum duration, different stages, conditions from afflictions. Again, you want to disease someone in Pathfinder, it will hold your hand and give you step-by-step mechanics on how to inflict a disease on your players. Is that good or bad? That's up to you to decide. Do you love how in-depth and the checks and balances and the cross-references and the equality that these kind of like cold hard stats offer? That is for you. And that's fine. Your opinion can certainly be different than mine. And it doesn't mean that we have to stop being friends. Oh, we're almost to the end. Look at this. Game mastering. Dun dun dun. Illumines Medi, give me a quick and dirty opinion about this playtest. A quick and dirty summary. Very mechanics heavy. If you like mechanics, play it. If you like role-playing, or you don't want to spend a bunch of time cross-referencing or whatnot, don't play it. There's your quick and dirty. Elsie says that it's a naughty playtest that needs to be punished. TJ is saying if the character has sex for 7 days in a row with 7 different willing partners, they literally become like a walking volcano. And that's in Lamentations of the Flame Princess. Yeah. Or they literally become Jack Harkness. I bartended at a strip club for a year, says Journeyman, and that is real. We found out about the spells when a mother came up to the counter and handed us the spell book and gave us a lecture. Oh, TJ, are you working at a game store then? Or do you own a game store? Also, I would hope that a mother would see any kind of parental advisory that is located on the material, or that the employee would have pointed out that this material is not safe for work. There might be a forest for the trees issue here. Obviously, the game is not like 5e and is super crunchy. Is it better than 1e? Is it going to appeal to the people who like this sort of game? And you know what, Fluffy? Yes. I cannot give the perspective of someone who's played First Edition, because I didn't play First Edition. And I only played 3rd Edition for a couple of years. I think a couple of years. I don't know, maybe 5. It's been so long, though. So, in that case, correct. I, as my bias in experience or personality, cannot tell you that 2nd Edition is better than 1st Edition if we're trying to compare at least 2 kinds of apples as compared to an orange and an apple. So that's a great observation, Fluffy. This, as far as I know, this could very well be above and beyond, hands down. Did you play 1st Edition Pathfinder? You have to buy 2nd Edition. It's going to do everything you hoped it would do as a 1st Edition player. I just don't have that knowledge or experience to personally say so. But I appreciate you bringing that up, Fluffy Sheep. Alzi says, strippers seem like cool people. There was that D&D game of all sex workers, and it was very creative and funny. You think it was on The Escapist? Oh, maybe. I haven't heard of it, Alzi. But you know what? Don't discount people of different walks of life and professions. We're all human beings who experience a lot. You want to talk about someone who experiences humanity? You talk to someone like what you just referenced. Think of the things that they see, the things that they hear, that they've either personally experienced or they've heard from other people in the same social groups. Oh, you used to work at a game store. Gotcha, TJ. Hey, if you ever want to talk shop, I'll happily do so. I think the group has a blog with a lot of good story concepts, if I can look for it. They're just like normal people. They're good and bad. Exactly, Neo Realms. I mean... Nope. Despite the context, I will not go there, as I don't want to ruffle feathers. Even if I might not, it's a friendly audience. I don't know. I do agree that they are working people like anyone else, and therefore perhaps they should be treated as such, as well as their profession more normalized like a other profession, with other work safety, safety regulations, and monitors and support, and the ability to actually seek governmental help if there is some sort of inhumane or abusive or filthy or dangerous work environments. There. Did I thread a needle with my sentiment? Victor, hey! A nice hat tip, by the way. Hello to you, Victor. Good to see you again. Illumines, how is this playtest compared to 1st Edition Pathfinder so far? This question is for those who have played 1st Edition Path. Hopefully there's someone out there who can answer that. Unfortunately, I can't, Illumines. LZB, if you can find the game, post the link. Oni-chan, the Weeb Hunter, always come back to the most interesting chat convos. Well, we're happy to entertain. I want you to get that subscription's worth out, Oni-chan. You have noticed us. We have a union here. Good job, Canberra. Neo Rum says amen. Alright, as Game Master, you run each session of Pathfinder, providing the link between the players and the world of the game. This ensures everyone is imagining the same things as their characters explore the... That's a tall order. In 5th edition, a rules lighter, stripped down version of a fantasy Western European storytelling setting, to get everyone to imagine the same thing is like herding cats. I appreciate the verbiage of the effort, but come on, let's be reasonable. Interact with people and battle monsters. Briss Vegas. Hey, now guys, look. I eat at Outback Steakhouse now and again. Okay? Can I be in your club too? Journey. I know what you're saying, but that's difficult. Hi, Rhodey. Good to see you again. I hope you're feeling good. An undead race from scratch. Yeah, that's a good way to do it. Base it on a template of something else. Finally, someone who recognizes Briss Vegas' superiority. You're working on a homebrew RPG campaign while I'm waiting for a D&D group's approval of joining. I hope you get it, Victor. And you know if there's anything we can help you with, say the word. Hey, Imagination, good to see you. Yeah, oh, by the way, that actually reminds me, Journeyman. Are you a part of the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund? I don't know if you have a membership in that or not. It sounds like something you might get some good traction out of. You might even be able to use it to do some networking and to give some material presentations or interviews. But I would look into the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund. It's something that's offered to comic stores as a membership. And if you ever run into legal trouble and you're they can help give you best practices. They might even be able to step up and help defend you in court if someone takes offense to a small backwards lowercase c contained inside an uppercase O, if you know what I'm talking about. Oh, you are? Okay. Gotcha, Journey. Heart. My brother! When what you say in this platform can affect your income or enjoyment, saying what you want can have huge implications. It very much can, TJ. It's got an adult content warning, but there's not actually anything objectionable. Extra, read all about it. Matty Gall's all tyrannical political rant and condemns all demographics at once. And then suddenly we get some kind of spiraling, like some spiraling newspaper coming in and X3, read all about it. Matty goes on tyrannical political rant and condemns all demographics at once. When you take on the role of a game master, you'll gain the immense rewards of crafting fun experiences for an entire group of your friends. Your responsibilities include telling the story of the group's adventures in a compelling and consistent way, preparing for game sessions by building or studying... Man, they are giving you homework. By building or studying adventures and creating characters and plots, fleshing out the world where a game takes place, emphasizing the fantastical while grounding it just enough in the real world to feel believable. Holy crap, Paizo, you want me walking this tight line? I've been running D&D and other role-playing games for 12, 13? No. Almost 20 years. And you want me to do this? I say it with slight sarcasm, but come on. I think someone's got some rosy-tinted goggles on. Improvising the reactions of non-player characters and other forces in the world that, as the players do unexpected things. I'm glad they're at least preparing you for that, right? Making rules calls to keep the game going and ensure fairness. Okay, I am all about that, but when you have 11 billion rules... Entertaining the players and yourself with novel concepts and original character, please no steal, please no bully. And rewarding creative ideas with interesting outcomes. Pathfinder games are typically structured as a campaign, a story covering a party of characters. This campaign is subdivided into adventures, which are smaller stories that involve exploration and interaction with non-player characters. Etc. and so forth. Let me catch up in chat here. The Fext are what Rhodium calls one of the 3 immortal undead races, since death and bad things come in 3s. There are vampires, werewolves, and the Fext that come from the same region, so they are essentially the 3 immortal undeads. Oh, okay. Yeah, King, Rhodium is making a homebrew undead race. Spinning headline. Dungeon Markser, has Morgs gone too far? I gotta get a I gotta get one of those hats and put in like press, you know, in the brim. I don't have, you know, I haven't worn my hats in a while on stream. I guess I can put it in my earphones, right? Just get a big thing that says press. Can't use that. I don't know, does that work? X3, X3. Morgs says something controversial in 2018. X3, X3. Reasonable man trying to bring reason to an unreasonable debate. X3, X3. I'm pre-Maddie now, I guess. I'm press. Take my socks off, Zuler Pie? I don't know if I get the reference. Not different enough not to be related. Okay. Want to hear about my campaign? It's a weird combination of D&D and Call of Cthulhu mixed with steampunk and Wild West. Oh, there goes my press pass. Yeah, Victor. Yeah, talk to us about it. I'd love to hear. I like hearing these creative ideas. Gotta have your own thing to stand as your own type of undead, says King. Have you guys heard about Feast? It sounds trippy and cool. I don't think that I have, Elsie. They're a real myth, but they don't have a lot of lore. Man, it's a real legend, all right. I think I know all I need about the Fex. Just shoot them with silver sunlight. Journeyman TJ Fate, I don't care about the repercussions because at the end of the day, I'm an artist, and what I create is in my head and my heart. And yeah, Journey, you and I share a lot of things, and there are definitely things that you present that it's not that I couldn't or wouldn't, but I think I'd present them differently. Just due to the nature of our professions and the way that we carry ourselves. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing for either one of us, but that is actually the beautiful part of humanity and our differences, is that we can agree and resonate on so many things, including being members of the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund. And yet, for our own reasons, we either filter or express ourselves in 2 different ways, despite having strong, like, cross-mogenation. Only glass bullets and a stake used to tie a young tree can kill a Fext, according to actual lore. They are impervious to all other forms of injury. TJ, so that makes me extreme right now. You know what? In my local newspaper, I've been called a left-wing loon, and I've been called a right-wing nut. So I guess I'll take that as a compliment. As I'm actually capable of entertaining thoughts without everything being at the exclusion of something else, or that I'm completely beholden to one mentality or another. Alzi at King, more about the dangers of being overly opinionated. Yeah, one way or the other. That's true. You do have to watch that. You do have to watch it, whether you want to or not. Kind of like what I was joking with Journeyman. You know, a lowercase backward C in the middle of a large capital O can get Journeyman kicked off of Twitch. I'll let you use your imagination, okay? A small backwards lowercase c in the middle of a large uppercase O can get Journeyman in trouble on Twitch. Well, DM and play are slightly different. Feast, an experimental story game that won some awards recently. You play as ghosts, aliens, or some other kind of life for me that eats memories. Every player brings a type of food, and you discuss how the palate represents the story of the memory you're eating. That's an interesting concept, Alzi. Neo Realms, I'm squeaky clean on my stream, but yeah, Neo, I'm with you, man. And Neo, especially with what you do, not just with your art, but you know what you've expressed for your profession, that brings a whole extra layer of discretion and having to watch over your shoulder and having to make sure like you're walking a fine line and having everything be super like contextualized or recorded or, you know, completely like inoffensive. No, a copyright? No. You got to think about a really small look here. How about this? A small backwards lowercase c inside a slightly bigger O inside a larger O. Tryhard7 got XQC reprimanded on Twitch. Granted, there's so much drama among different people that I can't say I've heard of this broadcast or what happened, Alzi. Victor, the players wake up in a strange clinic where the floor has a lot of blood stains around it. They find a message saying that the blood transfusion was successful, and they've been taken to the city of Sarkosa, where the hunt is in its fullest. Do continue, Victor. Only the artists get what you're saying. Okay, got it. It's a rough situation wherein just know that I love and respect what you do. For me, it's always at the bottom rung and not that easy. Thank you, Journey, and thank you in return. You know, we're going to have a big old hug fest. Come on, bring it in. Come on. Hey. Come on. Yeah, there we go. XQC is I mean, look, Rhodium, if the word controversial in this year, in this day and age, means absolutely nothing. Everything is a controversy in 2018. So when I see someone is controversial, a statement is controversial, a law, a policy, heck, Pathfinder 2E is controversial. I'm not yelling at you, Rhodey. I'm making the point that in today's day and age, controversial is a meaningless word. Yeah. I caught on, but you know what? Look, I base stuff on games or stories or other things too. So if Victor is using that as inspiration, hey, is everyone having fun? Who cares? Journey, you are not. Nope, you are not. You may suck, Journeyman, but you're not controversial here. Overwatch League player and got fired from his team for anti-gay statements and other bigoted comments on his own stream. And that, Journeyman, the day you stop considering yourself being a sucky artist is the day you're no longer an artist. Because you should never be fully content with anything you do. I know I'm preaching to the choir, but for anyone out there with artistic aspirations, even Bob Ross says this. Never be content with your work. Because then you've stopped growing. You've stopped getting better. You've stopped networking and learning and adapting and improving and expanding yourself. So, J-Man, I want you to suck every single art commission. You better be discontent and realize after you've submitted it, man, I could have done that better. Because you could have. And I say that with all due respect. Because I feel that too when I write, when I compose, sometimes when I broadcast, or even just, you know, if I have a heart-to-heart with someone, or I reflect on something that I said or did, I can always be a better person too myself. I can always be better. I love it, J-Man. You need to watch me play Vampire? Well, I might do a bonus stream of Vampire Bloodlines maybe tomorrow, maybe Monday when I don't normally broadcast, J-Man. The Tryhard 7 thing was perhaps one of his only genuine mistakes, but instead of apologizing, he's like, no, you don't understand how Twitch works, to the guy. Oh. Yeah, yep. Your little trees could always be just a little happier. Yes, they can. You should have put more highlighting on them. I live by that creed. I'm never not criticizing my own writing. At the same time, though, Rhodium, you'll always be your worst critic, so don't let that paralyze you. You have to make progress, and you have to at least have satisfaction. If not complete satisfaction, you should at least have satisfaction with the things that you create. And then use that as a springboard into your next project. If self-criticism is the key to growth, I'm going to be incredibly developed. Owlsie's too swole with self-criticism. During the Pathfinder playtest, we asked that you run our playtest adventure Doomsday Dawn, which you can find at paizo.com, etc. Okay. After you do that, run a survey, running a game session. Alright, so starting a session. Once everyone is ready, get everyone's attention and cover the following topics. These steps are in rough order. You can change based on your group style or session needs. Recap what happened, establish where the characters are at the start of a new session. Have they been resting? Are they in a hallway? Etc. Let the players know how many hero points their characters have. Hero points? In my opinion, kind of a controversial thing. I don't know if I like it. Each character always starts each session with 1 hero point, and you can award 1 more for a player who hosts the game, brings food or supplies, keeps notes or maps, or does anything else that benefits the group. So, a nervous, shy person who just wants to play, or even just wants to come along for the ride? Nope, no mechanical benefits for you. Or suddenly someone who's always been providing the chips and dip, selflessly, through no obligation? Now that you're playing Pathfinder? Jane brought chips and dip because she wants a hero point. And now all of a sudden this kind gesture becomes bitter because it involves a mechanic, a currency mechanic. It strips away humanity and it replaces it with a cold, hard, unfeeling mechanic. Boo. Establish goals and commence adventuring. Decide which mode of play you're going to start in, then lead off with a verbal prompt to get the action started. You might ask a question related to a particular character, have a monster attack, and immediately roll initiative, or etc. and so forth. I want pizza, Neo Realms, but I freely exchange level 10 spells to people who freely bring pizza, not expecting anything. Which, by the way, there's actually level 10 spells in Pathfinder 2e, so I can't even give out level 10 spells. Ah. Upon leaving the clinic, says Victor, the players run across a wounded Lycan. After dealing with the Lycan, the players find mobs of people who have lost their minds and are attacking everything and everyone. They find a note saying that they must make it to the Temple of the Old Gods. Ooh. Especially if that person's a great old one, warlock, right? Come at me, Scrublords. I'm ripped with self-loathing. Hero points are mostly just get forgotten and held on to anyway, in my experience. That very well may be. Never had a game made better by hero points. Our hero point, they're kind of like inspiration, TJ. You can use them for rerolls, or you can use them like a focus sash in Pokemon. When you would die, you can spend hero points to not die and remain at 1 hit point. Oh, I get, Neo, I'm trying to have a fun back and forth. And if I fail, then I'm sorry, I gotta work on my delivery method. Also, sometimes I just get on a soapbox. Give out level 11 spells, they go that far. You know what? I guess so. But that would necessitate me playing Pathfinder 2nd Edition, and unfortunately, or running this, specifically. I don't know, maybe playing? Maybe? I do not see myself running this game, though. During a session, you are in charge of keeping the game on track, man. Paizo, please. My players also are part of this. I mean, yeah, I can call to order, but come on. Are my players completely without agency in how organized the game flows? You want to keep a rough eye on the time so you get a good endpoint. You're the interface between the copious rules and the imagined world. They'll sometimes ask you questions and act based on their assumptions. It's up to you to establish what's true in the world and and don't do this unilaterally. You're informed by the setting's backstory, your preparations and suggestions, okay? Adjudicating the rules. Like, I don't disagree with this. I do not disagree. It's just really... in such a rules-heavy, crunch-heavy system, it's almost jarring to see sentimental fluff about ideals and about optimal, fluffy, fun ways of running a game that is so purely a cold, hard machine of random number generation. As the GM, you're responsible for solving any rules disputes. Remember that keeping your game moving takes precedence over being 100% correct. Looking up rules at the table can slow the game down, so in many cases you'll be making your best guess, rather than scouring the book for the exact... Is this meta? I don't know. It can be instructive to look through those rules during a break after the session, though. I agree. I do not disagree with this at all. I'm 100% on board. Keep the game going. Don't worry about the rules. Make a ruling on the fly with the caveat of we'll come back and explore it later, but let's keep it going. And then you have a book with 300 and X pages of rules. To help make calls on the fly, use the following guidelines to keep the rule use the following guidelines the game rules are based on. You might want to keep printouts of these guidelines. Skill DCs by level and difficulty for quick reference. If you don't know how long a quick task takes, go with one action. If you're not sure what an action task uses, look for the most similar basic action. So if you don't know the specific action, look up in another part of the book the basic action, then base the specific action on the basic action. Why are you doing this to me? When two sides are opposed, have one roll against the other's DC. Don't have both sides roll. The one who rolls is usually the one acting. If you're making up an effect, creatures should be incapacitated or killed only by a critical success. I don't know where that one came from. If something improves or lowers chances of success, give it a +1 circumstance bonus or -1 penalty. If you're not sure how difficult something significant should be, use a high difficulty DC for the party's level. If you don't know what check to use, pick the most appropriate skill. If no skill applies to a check to recall knowledge, use the lore skill. Use the character's daily preparations as time to reset anything that lasts roughly a day. And when a character accomplishes something noteworthy that doesn't have rules for experience points, award the group 10 to 30 XP. I do not like experience points. I like milestones. Wah, wah, wah. I'm a baby. Milestones. Wah. I'm a big old baby. Adding additional options. Some sections of this book indicate that you might grant access to additional options at your discretion. So when you need more options in Pathfinder, if you feel confident that allowing a character to take a particular option will be a good addition to your game, go for it. If you're uncertain or worried about a request, you don't have to allow it, and that's your call to make. However, try to meet players halfway or suggest alternatives if you can. Special circumstances. So be accommodating to special circumstances. I agree. We're agreeing, Pathfinder! Why are we yelling? We're agreeing with each other! King says, I wonder if, like, fans of the idea of tabletop wrote this. Because it's just so, like, a kid who had to write about what he thinks D&D is like, wrote how he thinks you should play. Victor continues his campaign setting. Here's the last thing I'll tell about my campaign. On their way to the temple, the players must kill 2 of the temple's former authorities, turned into beasts. What awaits the temple? Who knows? Who knows, indeed, Victor? Who knows? I like the prompt. It sounds like you have a solid setting in mind. You have a start point, you have an end, and fill in the rest of the way. Make that journey to get to that temple of the elder gods. Elsie says, at King, nah, dog, the people writing this have played more games than we ever will. It's just a different lens. King, played more games than... What? Played more games than we likely ever will? Excuse me? In just that voice, too. That's obviously how he types. Typically, if I make a ruling that we're not sure about and I get wrong, we blame the Traveler and his mischief. Hey, that's not a bad out, TJ. Traveler's a great game, too. Hey, 12, good to see ya. I mean, it's literally their job. Non-scaling XP just seems super weird. Yeah, milestone pride, baby. Says Alzi in a wonderfully Australian accent. King, no one else has put any significant time into their hobbies. We'll just blindly pretend our Paizo masters know better than we simple folk. 12 for 10 cents loud noises. Diadems is just going to go on a walk through the woods. And a mad dryad pops out, but you got a 16. Diadems, nice job. No need to get so sassy, Cassie. I just don't think you can say these guys don't know what they're talking about. King says they don't know what they're talking about. Look at that smug face. Oni-chan, the Weeb Hunter. I said it yesterday, 5e is super player friendly, and that lets you make depth. Pathfinder's about giving you depth with solid numbers. Yes. Yep. I am not going to argue that, Oni-chan. Nice, TJ. Alzi, how did I end up defending Pathfinder? Alright, as discussed in Chapter 9, sessions of Pathfinder can be divided up into 3 different kinds of activity or modes of play. The encounter mode of play takes place in real time or slower and involves direct engagement between players and enemies, potential allies, or each other. Combat and social interaction usually take place in encounter mode. The connective tissue of an adventure exploration mode is used when characters are exploring a location. Okay, it's overland travel, it's downtime. Because encounter mode is the most tightly regimented mode of play, you'll most likely be following the rules presented in Chapter 9, because you usually call for initiative during exploration mode before transitioning into encounter mode. Guidelines for determining initiative order appear on page 331 as part of the GMing advice about exploration mode. Rules for building balanced combat encounters appear in the Pathfinder Playtest Bestiary, which I just don't have opened. You set stakes, time scale, actions, and reactions. Choosing adversaries' actions. Players often coordinate and plan to be as efficient as possible, but their adversaries don't always. As the GM, you're role-playing these foes, including deciding their tactics. Most creatures have a basic grasp of tactics, like flanking or focusing on a single target. Yet, you should remember that they have emotional reactions and make mistakes, even more so than the player characters. Use adversaries' knowledge about the situation. Okay, balance it out. This is instructing you how to go about programming the AI for your monsters or your baddies or whatever in a combat situation. Adversaries typically stop attacking someone who's knocked out. Even if a creature knows a fallen character might come back into the fight, only the most vicious creatures focus on helpless foes rather than the more immediate threats. Paizo... Is Paizo overstepping here? By telling you as the GM, only vicious, murderous monsters would try and actually kill someone trying to kill them? Am I being hyperbolic and cynical? Do I need another break? Is this a solid point? Or is this Paizo trying to micromanage how you run your game at your tabletop with your friends? Victor, I made the campaign system fairly simple since it's not actually a D&D campaign. All the players need are character sheets. Oh, D10s and D20s. That's very interesting, Victor. If you get a chance to play that, or I mean, if you get the players and you play through it, I'd love to know how it turns out. You have me hooked on the idea. Onichi and the Weeb Hunter. I like most tabletop RPGs, just not sure I would bring the Pathfinder to a tabletop. What? Can you further define that, Weeb Hunter? That's right, Neo Realms. I'm pro Pathfinder. Come at me, bro. Yeah, please do, Victor. Looks like Alzi and King have buried the hatchet. Running adversaries is a mix of being true to the creature and doing what's best for the drama of the game. Think of it like a movie or a fight scene in a novel. If the fighter taunts a fire giant to draw its attention away from the fragile wizard, it still might be tactically more sound for the giant to keep pummeling the wizard. Ask yourself whether that's the best choice for the scene, or whether you'd rather have a scene in which the giant redirects its ire to the infuriating fighter. Combat encounter typically ends when the creatures on one side are killed or knocked unconscious. Once this happens, you can stop acting in initiative order. Sorry, 1 second here. Okay. You might need to keep using encounter rounds if any members of the winning side are near death and clinging to a cliff or some other place. You can call a fight is over. There's no challenge left. Yeah, this is standard. Good. This is solid advice. I don't know if I necessarily like that paragraph, but look, we're not shooting for 100%. We're going for understanding of a concept, and that's what we're doing. Yep. One side could surrender. Not every battle in an RPG has to be a battle of attrition or to the death. Or to the pain. Bury the hatchet, unleash the chainsaw. Well, I'll let you two fight that out. So we have like Alzi the Owlbear versus King Von Allay the Lich. Bone saws ready. Then it tells you, well, if they're going to explore, here's things that you can do. Typical tactics and exploration, detecting magic, follow tracks, hustling, investigating. You know, what are the stakes? What's the time scale? Actions and reactions. Solid advice if you're a new DM, or I guess a GM in this case. Rewarding the PCs for learning about their surroundings. Encouraging the players to... I don't know. Now, King, don't twitch too much. Because for all of you out there, especially if you like the older edition of D&D, I remember King Von Allay saying, like, nowadays, you know, mods just want to hold your hand and take you on, like, a Disney's Haunted House adventure where you sit in the car and it just takes you through the experience. You know, it tells a story. And then King's like, you know, back in the day, you could stumble into a cave in a hillside outside the starting farm village, and there was a family of red dragons that will just eat you and kill the party. I think I remember that about correctly. You're still pretty keen to get a copy of Genesis? Edge of the Empire was a lot of fun. A couple people in the community play Edge of the Empire, Alzi. One Crit Wonder is one. He actually broadcasts it, Alzi. King wants a 200-room dungeon minimum. Monitoring spell durations, multiple encounters, casting spells before a fight, sometimes called pre-buffing, gives the characters a big advantage since they can spend more combat rounds on offensive actions rather than preparatory ones. In many cases, the act of casting spells can give away the party's presence. For instance, if the characters were all hidden behind a barricade, the noise and gesticulation of spellcasting might still alert their foes, whereas doing so in a separate closed room wouldn't. And you know what? That is consistent. When in the chapter on spellcasting, it says verbal components are very clearly and loudly shouted out. Like, if you're casting a spell in Pathfinder, it's like you're piloting a Gundam using all your special moves. You have to shout out what you're doing. Are you casting Burning Finger? Is the East burning red? I don't know how many of you would get something like that. Maybe more than half. Just think of the giant mecha trope from anime if it's familiar to you, and how everyone shouts out their moves. In Pathfinder, it says the verbal component is very forcefully, loudly shouted out. And so if you're a wizard and you want to sneak, there's no magic unless your GM goes against the rules as they're written in the playtest. King says, old larger maps being mostly organic vistas that blended into each other versus newer maps which are basically Walgreens-sized convenience dungeons. Yeah, we're studying the playtest rules of Pathfinder Second Edition, Rhodium. I think we're basically hate reading it as a group. Aren't there metamagics for bypassing? There probably are, and some spells don't always need a verbal component either. For bards, the somatic is usually the instrument, so you'd be heard casting anyway. Actually, the somatic and the verbal. And oftentimes the material also. So anyway, these are things you can do, right? You can converse, detect magic, follow tracks. And I don't think am I hate reading this? If I am, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to hate read this. It's just I'm having difficulty squaring it because I'm not used to systems like this. And it's a challenge to me that I want to accept because I want to be a better person. And I want to open myself up to ideas that maybe I hadn't opened myself up to before. Alzy, what is this music? I'm dying. This music is called Lonesome West, as found on tabletopaudio.com. Okay, a lot of this, I mean, it's aimed at the GM, but this is going over the mechanics that we just went over prior in the book. Properly resting requires 8 hours of sleep, though resting typically... I wish I could properly rest. Jeez, I haven't had a proper spell preparation rest in a good long time. Though resting typically happens at night, a group gains the same benefits for resting during the day, but it can gain them no more than once every 24 hours. A character who rests for the full night recovers in the following ways naturally. And it went over this before too, so I guess this is a summary of what the PCs can read above, and it's just condensed for you. I also love tabletop audio. I wish it got more attention and people would stop worshiping Sirenscape. I don't know if I've heard of Sirenscape, Alzy. I guess I could check it out, but I use tabletop audio for almost everything I do. I'm kind of new to D&D. Can you give me some tips? Well, first of all, welcome to the channel. Thanks for finding us. There's the greatest piece of advice I could give you is have fun. One of the major points or selling points of D&D is it's the ability for you and a bunch of friends or family to get together, tell a story, and enjoy yourselves. You can be the action scene you could be the Helm's Deep scene in Lord of the Rings. You could be the swashbuckler who takes out the dagger, jams it into the sail and rips his way or her way down to the deck of the ship. You can do all the fun things that you can do that video games can't allow because it's not in their programming. Because it is a storytelling game, and it's a game of imagination. There are rules and mechanics and dice rolls involved. And those will come with time. 5th edition is not as thorough as, actually, we'll say Pathfinder Second Edition is when it comes to that. So that's the biggest piece of advice, Pink Knight. Have fun, relax, play your character. Feel free to make mistakes, talk in silly accents, and enjoy yourself. Speaking of spells, and by the way, Knight, if you have any other specific questions, I'll happily answer them. Speaking of spells is somewhat of a literary trope, so the reader can get a general idea of what's happening. I never liked it. I think readers are smart enough to recognize a fireball spell without someone shouting fireball. I mean, if you want to make up magic words in some arcane language, you can. I was being a little tongue-in-cheek. But, rules is written. If you want to, be an actually... Rules is written. Say that you have to shout everything. Sirenscape is officially sponsored by Wizards and Paizo, and it costs money to basically do what Tabletop Audio does for free. Gotcha. Zuler Pie, I watched the end of the 5e session where the lack of precise Pathfinderish rules led to a very vague picture of the scene. To me, it seems the DM was just making up how far apart PCs and NPCs were. The PCs didn't seem to mind, but I can see some people finding this too wishy-washy. I mean, depending on the context, Zuler Pie, yeah. If it wasn't expected to have a narrated combat, or if there's other blocks to communication, We had something similar like that happen on our last episode of the game we play on Tuesdays. Alzi suggests to Knight, I'd suggest looking up some celebrity games. Critical Role's very popular. Personally, I think Yogg's Quest is hilarious. Get a feel for how people let loose and improvise. King says, don't watch Critical Role to learn D&D. Watches and resting, so you can split things up. This is what happens when you rest. Another summary on difficult terrain, adverse weather. Pink Knight, what roles are the hardest and who is the easiest to begin with? If you want to go for, I guess, a solid beginner character, it would be a human barbarian. A human fighter is probably going to be a very... Not that it's not powerful. It just doesn't have a lot of vague or doesn't have a lot of intricate roles to fill. If you go a standard human fighter, that is a good bread and butter character to learn how to play, to learn how to generate a character and go from there. King says the hardest roles are more complicated ones that have a lot of moving parts, like wizards, sorcerers, anything with spells has a lot of extra. Yeah, because you have so many options, and every option is a little like a nuance, kind of like what we're talking about here. And so not that the mechanics of running it are difficult, but if you're a new player, instead of having one or two options in front of you, such as what a fighter will give you, they're solid options, by the way. Instead, a level 1 wizard has 6 spells. And of the 6 spells, you can prepare 3 or 4 maybe. And then of that, you can cast any of the 3 or 4 for 2 different times during a rest. So what spells do you take? What spells do you prepare? And which spells do you cast with your limited spell slots in the various circumstances that can occur? I don't say that to try and scare you off, because playing a wizard, especially in 5th edition, is as easy as it ever has been in Dungeons and Dragons. I don't know, 4th edition wizards might have been a little simpler, but for reasons that made people grumble about wizards. But yeah, a human fighter is an awesome bread and butter, cut your teeth on the system character to build. Barbarian has rage, which can be a weird mechanical thing to track King. I was going to say fighter or barbarian, but I pulled back barbarian because of the rage mechanic. You don't have to track that as a fighter. Yeah, 4th took wizards off their 2nd ed pedestal, that's for sure, TJ. Hopefully we're able to help you out here, Pink. Character can spend a week of downtime to swap out one of her feats. She removes the old feat and replaces it with another of the same type. She must choose a feat that she could have taken at the same level as the one she's losing. Yep, so this is all a recap of the stuff that we've gone over. It's just a lot more squished for the sake of reference as a GM. Skill DCs by level and difficulty. So you do get some pretty high scaling. Look, by level 20, where the characters stop, a trivial skill DC is 29. Adjudicating common skills, gathering info, crafting. So it's setting DCs and having your party members meet them to gain some kind of benefit. So here, if they're taking different tasks, if they're balancing on a fallen log, and it's narrow, rotten, or slippery, different ways to adjust. Okay, here we go. Gradual improvement as characters continue to adventure is a core part of Pathfinder. The main ways characters get better are by earning experience, which they'll use to level up, and collecting treasure like powerful magic items. As they adventure, characters earn experience points. These come from achieving goals, completing social encounters, exploring new places, fighting monsters, and hopefully not being lol random murder hobos that want to kill and destroy and overturn everything because everything has an experience points value. You have a great deal of control over when the characters gain XP, though the following guidelines help you get a sense of what you're expected to give out in a standard campaign. At normal, so it looks like they're not. No. What are milestones? Everything's XP now. Alright, experience points are awarded for combat and social encounters. Characters also gain XP from exploration, such as finding secret areas or locating a foe's hideout. If the PCs face direct opposition, as the case of a fight or social conflict, the XP award is based on the level of the challenge to overcome. For events that award XP but aren't opposed, such as mapping a dungeon, overcoming a difficult environmental obstacle, or establishing an organization, you'll need to decide the XP award. Determine whether the achievement was a minor, moderate, or major accomplishment, and, using the table below, award them an appropriate amount of XP. Major accomplishments are usually the culmination of the character's efforts across many sessions. And so it gives you, because look, every level is a static 1,000. So, your level 1, you earn 1,000 EXP, or I don't know, let's say you earn 1,200 XP. You subtract 1,000 and you're level 2. And therefore, to get to level 3, you only need to grind another 800 XP. And so now you're sitting at that perfect amount. The 1,000 goes away and you're back at 0. Every level is 1,000. I'm not saying that's good or bad. It's just how they're doing it here. Be careful if you provide multiple ways to get accomplishment-based XP awards when you have a large group. This can mean that multiple people are working toward different accomplishments at once, leading to an XP influx. Advancement speeds. By varying the amount of experience points it takes to gain a level, you can change how quickly characters gain more power. For fast advancement, characters need 800 to level up. For slow, they need 1,200. Fast advancement works best when you know you won't be playing a very long campaign and want to accomplish as much as possible quickly. You can even alter XP from adventure to adventure to get a different feel. During a street-level murder mystery or travel through a haunted wilderness, you might use slow advancement. Then, if the next adventure were a small action-packed dungeon populated by genies, you might go for a standard or fast. It's highly recommended that you keep all the player characters at the same XP total. This makes it much easier to know what Then why hand out XP? Why don't you keep track of it as a GM, and then you use it as a milestone? Having characters at different levels can mean weaker characters die more easily and players feel less effective, which can make the game less fun for those players. If you don't keep the whole group at the same level, you'll need to select an average party level before determining how difficult encounters should be. Party members who are behind the party's average level should gain double the amount of XP or other characters until they reach the average part. Then why even split it up if you're telling them that they have to double it in order to catch up and then all be the same? Why? These are extra steps. Am I wrong? Am I incorrect? Are these just extra unnecessary steps? I miss chat. Hi, chat. Hi, chat. What's going on, chat? So, Sirenscape is, etc., as Alzi said. King says, don't watch Critical Role. As kids, we never used figures because we couldn't afford them. Pink says, what roles are the hardest? Okay, and then we got into the human fighter. I'm not big on CR because it's very generic. I think it's an okay launching pad. Do you not like it because it's professional actors, asks Alzi. I haven't even watched Critical Role. I wish I could have an opinion. Fighters are easier. That is correct, Neo Realms. King says the hardest roles are... Oh, yeah, okay, so magic users. And that's when I said, well, Barbarian's kind of, I guess, technically harder than Fighter. Well, that being said, you can mitigate the chaos of choice by being thematic. Yes. King continues. Personally, it's better just to use things you think are cool rather than things others find mechanically strong. Yes. Especially in 5th edition, Pink Knight. Go with what sounds cool to you. It's very difficult to make a bad character in 5th edition. I started playing last year and really hard to play with people where I am because not a lot of people want to play. Because their campaigns aren't your campaigns and their carefully constructed meta might not even vaguely apply to your game. I most like to play as a support type. Support? I guess Bard wouldn't be too bad. You could go for a Spellcaster Bard if you want. Yeah, try them all, Imagination. It's fun experimenting. Monk and Wizard are the best support in your opinion? Well, and Cleric too, of course. Lol, so random, TJ. Depends on the kind of support, because you can push from behind as a healer, or you can move problems aside as a utility caster, or you could lead by soaking up the most attention as a fighter barbarian. Imagination, yes, thank you for promoting the Discord. We very much can. That was very cool of you, Imagination. So welcome, Pink Knight, if you're aboard now. Hey, there we go. Thank you. If you come over to Project Workshop, we can help with that stuff. Or if you just want to talk about things in general, we can do it in Table Talk, Pink. Protagonist Kun. Only thing XP was ever good at was for crafting costs. You're correct, these steps are too much. And even that was a not wise idea. Milestone puts too much faith in the GM fiat. Pathfinder GMs are as beholden to the rules as players, which is why Pathfinder Society quote-unquote works. You can play with strangers you have no trust in because enjoyment. Well, heck, even in the Adventurer League for D&D, if you're running in an organized play system like Pathfinder Society or Adventurer League, yes, everything is groomed, everything is calculated, everything is specific. But if you're playing at a tabletop at home, I don't know. Critical Role is sort of an atypical game. They have a lot of players, and they are pretty far on their... And they're pretty far over on the thespian side of things. And Season 2 has a lot of intra-party conflicts. But it's still a good show. The worst thing that can happen, in my opinion, is that people will get a skewed idea of what's expected or necessary. Yes, Pink Knight. On Tuesdays, we play D&D. And in fact, Pink, now that you're on the Discord, if you go to the dragon here that says Maddie Presents, this is... You can get a summary, or you can get a written summary of what's happened. And also, you can watch the sessions. And you can see how we play D&D. So if you think we know what we're talking about, or at least we're halfway decent people to at least hang around with, then you can go back and you can watch the story play out episode by episode. And that's over here under Maddie Presents in the community interaction part of the server. Alzi, yeah, I think that's a fair observation. Goes into terrain types. What is a bog? What is a crowd? What is water? What is climate? What is fog and precipitation? What does it do? What are the mechanical benefits or detriments? Usually temperature isn't important enough to worry about beyond describing clothing. Temperatures below freezing are mild cold, and temperatures above around 95 Fahrenheit are mild heat. They don't damage characters dressing appropriately, but they reduce the time after which characters become fatigued. Severe cold. Temperatures above 105 degrees. From 90 to 130. You want me to calculate humidity in my game too? Paizo! Stop it! I don't want to have to calculate relative humidity to temperature in my game. No, I don't wanna. Wham! I'm a baby. Alright, players. It's 105 out, but it feels like 140. I hope you have your umbrellas. Episode 1 has bad sound. Otherwise, it's fun. I think I should watch Critical Role. Enough people... Look, on Thursdays on Twitch, when you see 35, 40, 45,000 people watching Critical Role, I mean, that's a sign that it's doing something right. Oh, thank you, Pink Knight. And it'll show up in our... It will also show up in our Discord. The fire genasi in the party asks, why does the temperature matter? I think he's referring to my sessions. Yeah, Pink Knight, yeah. I believe so too. Alzi, dear GM, please calculate the approximate parts per million for carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. My immersion demands it. Oh, in our game? It might very well have had bad sound. Well, wait, our session 0? So wind. Are we getting wind shear? Are we... Hazards. Okay, this is how your gear gets destroyed. Because gear can get destroyed in Pathfinder. Right? It's kind of Breath of the Wild stuff, okay? I don't say that with disrespect. It's a part of the game. Yeah, that's how hot it is. A physical hazard's hardness indicates how difficult it is to break via damage. If a hazard can take more than one dent without becoming broken... By the way, dent and broken are mechanical keywords. This entry lists in parentheses the total number of dents it can take before becoming broken. So, hardness 11, 2 dents means the hardness could take damage equal to or exceeding its hardness twice, either taking damage twice or taking double its hardness damage at once and still function. The third time it took that much damage, it would be broken. If the hazard has multiple components, the parts of the trap with the listed hardness are set in parentheses. You can disable or destroy independent parts of, say, well, a spear launcher. Or your shield, or your armor has a particular hardness, can take X amount of dents, and after X amount of dents becomes broken. Broken things are effectively useless unless it's armor, in which case you refer to the armor list to see the AC penalty you get for wearing broken armor until it's repaired. Ah, run! Follow me, Pink Knight! Thank you! Alright. This is the last section. And you know what? Yeah, it's items. You know what? I gotta get up. I gotta take another break, like 5 minutes or so. You know, I'm gonna refresh my drink. You know, use the restroom real quick. Let's take 5 and let's drive this thing home. All right? We're gonna finish the playtest and then we'll talk about it afterwards. We're in the last parts, okay? So, you ready? 1, 2, 3, break!